Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of The Heroes, Joe's second standalone and the next First Law entry. And for this episode, we cover closing arguments, straight edge, and escape. So let's get started. As usual, you know it, I know it, we all know it. We're just gonna have to thank you. I know, suck it up. Sorry. Just deal with it.
Yes,
Everyone hates being thanked, but we've got to thank you
accept
for.
it.
Yeah, you've got to accept our thanks for continuing to listen to our shitty little podcast.
That's what makes it better, is the fact that you have to accept, I think.
Yeah, that's the grift right there. That's the grift. So we want to thank you.
This grift is going to pay off one of these days.
So we want to thank you again for your continued support. You guys are so nice and so kind and so fun. So much fun. Just you make sure to reach out to us via the social medias and the emails. That'd be cool. But so let's go on to our first chapter read through, which is closing arguments. Well, we kind of pick up where we left off with Finri, right? Last we saw her, she was in a whirl of shit because she saw a stranger coming with his East of the Criminal
Band of savages.
Yeah, and so now they've arrived. They've broken through the windows or coming across the fields, and it's just 100 men, lightly armed. Remember, 100 lightly armed men versus maybe 2,000 of these bastards. And how do I say it? Doesn't
They don't really stand a chance. Like, obviously their backs are against the wall, and the whole thing is described. It's kind of like a normal Joe Abercrombie kind of like, ooh, look over here, and ooh, look over here. This person died. Some people that she knew, a sergeant she knew like a captain she knew growing up, and then this guy here, and they slowly are getting overwhelmed. They stop being able to control the windows and doors, and then they slowly got huddled into a corner. Elise and Finri are kind of pushed to the middle because obviously they're the two women. So I do like that. Like, it is sad that like all these people here. Yeah, Lord Governor Meade was not very smart, but all these 100 people just get basically slaughtered. But they fight basically to the last man because they are trying to they don't have any choice. So I do like the way it's perceived as like, yeah, they're not as armed, but they're fighting as hard as they can. It's just not enough. There's not enough of them, and they get slowly chopped down one by one. And I do like this note here that she has in her own mind, thinking about like how she kind of wished Brimadan Gorst was there, and she should think that she wished that her husband was there. But what you want right there in that moment is a cold-blooded killer.
Brute strength and rage.
I find it quite ironic as well, because obviously Hal did say to Finri that if she was just a little bit nicer to Meade, or she was a little bit more diplomatic, then maybe he would have listened to her suggestion. So maybe he might have kept a company or two behind to guard. While
yeah.
So maybe it's everybody's hubris all coming together.
Finri's fault.
It's all Finri's fault. That's what I was getting to.
We're victim blaming now. Love it. I knew we'd get there eventually. So yeah, as Harrison pointed out, it basically got down to the point where there's some guards left, and they're having Finri, Elise, and Meade behind them. They're getting basically cornered to a wall, and one of the guardsmen gets cut down, and then they see a fucking savage in that space now, and that savage then basically just chopped into Meade's neck and collarbone area. And he just crashed over and died. And then Elise yells out a piercing shriek, as described here. And remember, at some point, Finri had managed to grab somebody's short steel, somebody that had died. And a savage, had grabbed her left arm, and she turned around, stares into like a face with very bad dental hygiene, let's just say. and she didn't realize it because she shoved him away, but she basically shoved a fucking sword in his ribs. And then he kind of like pushed her against the wall, and then somehow she was managed to take the sword out, and then just like slowly shove it into his face underneath his jaw, and so he dies. But then,
Fatality.
yeah, but then somebody else must have just like snatched her head and basically, gave her a good whack right in the forehead or something, or she just like hit the floor. But now somebody's on top of her, knee pressing into her stomach, choking the very, very life out of her. And then there was silence. Silence where the hand at her throat released just a bit of a fraction, just enough for her to like actually draw some breath. And the reason why there was such silence was, there were creaking footsteps outside. And then looking at the doorway, she sees a man that comes through. The shape of a man, at least, if not the size. He had to duck under the lintel. This is stranger come fucking. This is who she saw. And yeah. So he apparently, as soon as he like makes his presence known, everyone's kind of, they defer to him. They're very, well, we're quiet. We're not gonna do anything. And apparently,
salute.
yeah, savage attention, right? You could say. And apparently, he's looking at the chaos and he says, "Why is everything broken?" And then he goes,
Bruh.
He's like, "Did I not ask for trophies? Who killed this old man?" He's looking at me.
Like you literally cannot comprehend that there's a leader there that like isn't like a warrior. Because that's just how things work in the north, isn't it? Or
Right.
even everyone's a warrior, and it's like, what's this old man doing here? You know?
And then I like how all the savages are like, and then they all just gonna go, "Salak did it." And then apparently,
Salik is like, oh shit.
and apparently Salak is the guy that is choking Finri. So he's in double trouble now. Looks like he goes to Salak. He goes, "What are you doing with my woman, Salak?" And then now, oh shit, no, nothing. She killed Brega.
He's like, no, stranger come knocking. No, I promise, you can trust me. You're my man.
And then stranger goes, "You were robbing me." And he goes, no. And he's like looking around for his friends, but all his friends are just like scattered like cockroaches. These disloyal fuckers.
And he's so fucking intimidating. Like the way he's like so. We saw this in the meeting with Calder as well. The way that he just states things matter of factly. Like he's like, "You were robbing me, so you have to die. Sorry,
Yeah, and then
it's just the way it is."
Right.
He's all about the law, primal law.
Yeah, Salak tries to explain, but he goes, I know, but rules are rulesies. And then he just basically smashes Salak's head a few times against the wall, his skull crunching, and he dead. And then I like how he says, I guess he like mutters to himself. He goes, "You try to show them a better way, but some men will never be civilized." And then he tells his
I like to think that stranger comes knocking speech before he was like, we're gonna take this church and we're gonna show those Union boys what's up. He's just like, guys, we're going to conquer to learn. We're going to take their valuables and put them on our mantle so that we may be cultured.
He's like,
they're all
no.
But because they're all savages, so they all respect him, but they don't really like know what he's talking about.
They don't agree with him.
They respect him, but they don't understand him. They're like, "What?"
Yeah. We're gonna follow this guy.
It's like whenever the nerd happens to be the biggest in the class. Everyone's like, "Oh, what?"
And then
this is upset the natural order.
And then stranger tells the savages to take his women away, but do not tamper with them, because alive they are worth something, but dead they are dirt. And Elise screams again, but that's pretty much it. They just drag them both out, and that's the end of her part. Then we switch perspectives over to our boy Beck. Last we left him, he decided that the best spot for him was to hide in a cupboard. And he hears that things have calmed down out there. He doesn't know for sure, but there's silence, and he's thinking maybe, okay, so maybe they didn't think about coming upstairs, maybe this or that. Then he hears a footstep creaking on the stairs. Then he hears another one and another one, and it's like being stealthy. And he goes, "Oh no!" And he's panicking, right? He's thinking about all
Game
the
over, man.
yeah, game over, Meg. Bill Paxton. And then he just realized like fuck, how much like how much time is he gonna take? He's got to do something, right? He's got to do something. So here's one more footstep, and then he just bursts out of the cupboard screaming, and he stumbled because he tripped over like a floorboard or something, and, so he basically stabs at this man, the Union man, and they kind of collide and they go off balance and they kind of like are wrestling with each other. And then he realized he wasn't staring at a Union man, he was staring at Reft.
Whoopsie.
Yeah.
You know, when Gorse does it, it's fine, but when Beck does it, it's no.
No. Can't do that. Can't do that. I mean.
Well, Gorse is so nonchalant about it. Gorse is like,
Whoopsies, you were in my way.
when Beck, this is so perfect though. Like Beck and like Reft is like trying to tell him something. He's like, and then like Beck like freaks out and he's like rolls away from him and he's like his hands all sticky with blood. He's like covered in blood and he's looking at him and he's just like Reft is like reaching out to him like trying to tell him something and maybe he was just like, it's me, it's your Reft. But it's perfect in terms of the story too, because I just love how like he gets so afraid and so fearful, and like in most stories it'd be like, oh, he just hides in the cupboard and they find him and he's like, oh no, I just was scared or something. Like, no, I love this escalation because he jumps out and he kills his friend, or what you could consider to be his friend in these times. So and that's pretty damn tragic, and it only gets more tragic here in just a minute. It's like it's not bad enough that he's a coward and couldn't help fight, and it's already like, ooh, it's now he's killed one of his friends, and
yeah,
he's killed the one person who so Reft was basically what Beck wanted to be.
right.
He killed all the Union men, did it all pretty much himself by the looks of it, and then Beck just comes down and fucking stabs him to death.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
and like you say, it's tragic as hell. It's pretty fucking depressing, to be honest. This whole chapter is pretty depressing.
It is. He gets Reft, not Reft. I'm sorry, Beck. He gets a sword, and he looks at Reft, and Reft basically he's dead, but his eyes are still on Beck. That's he's obviously dealing with the guilt there. He goes downstairs. And then he can see, like, basically that all the lads were dead. Stoddard was on his face near the steps. The back of his head was neatly split. Colving was against the wall, head back, hands clamped to his chubby gut. Shirt soaked with blood. And Brait just looked like a pile of rags in the corner. Yowza. And
not that he was much more than rags in the first place, which is for some reason really it's such a sad line. I don't know.
Yeah, and then there were also 4 Union men dead there as well, which could have been from like earlier when Beck did peek down and saw like a couple of them get stabbed or what have you. Remember?
Yeah,
and these were armored men, right? They had breastplates and greaves and helmets, and Brait just had his rags. Even though one of the Union men that Beck looked at, wasn't like just about the age of Beck as well. He wasn't like much older.
I really like to see this sort of like imbalance of power, because obviously these guys are like the thralls. They're the lowest of the low,
right.
And they're going against the king's own.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see how miserable it is to fight somebody that has such a technological advantage over you,
Right.
it's pretty fucking sad.
Mm-hmm. And then Flood, but he burst in, and what's going on? What happened? And Becca kind of just go, I don't know, I don't know. And he says, I killed, and he tries to point upstairs, but he couldn't even lift his arm. And then, Flood takes that to mean like he killed the 4 Union men.
Although I have a tiny little theory here about Flood. I have a feeling he saw Beck, and it's true. Maybe he was like, "Oh yeah, you look at you, look good job, son." But he was like, I killed." But I wonder if he like knew some shit went down more than what Beck is saying, and he just like it's okay. Like he immediately was just like, "Don't worry about that. Don't worry. You did it. You did it. It doesn't matter at that point anymore." And so he'd rather just kind of boost him up. I like to think that Flood is a little bit more empathetic because he had all these boys, and he's like, the only one that survived, and he knew exactly that's what it was.
It's possible. It's possible. I will say in the chapter it does describe as he tried to point upstairs, but he couldn't raise his arm. He ended up pointing at the dead Union boys at his feet. So it could.
I know. I know that. I know that's what he sees.
That's what you're thinking. Like that could be an alternate. Like, oh, that might be what Flood's doing. I hear that. That makes sense. Flood seems like somebody that's he's smart enough to kind of try to keep out of the fray, but only for so long, right? He tried to keep his boys out.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's awful convenient. He just turns up after everybody's dead here, right?
Well, I mean, don't forget he was with the Greener boys.
Yeah,
and
sure.
all the Greener boys died. He was the one. He was the one who survived in his house.
Yeah. Flood was hiding in the cupboard as well.
Oh my god. Maybe it's just the way that Pacey says it inside the audiobook, but he's like there's like a hesitation in his voice, and he's like, "You killed him," and he like looks around, and he's like, then he says, he said, "You kill," yeah, he's like, "You killed him," and then he said, and then he's like, "What about Reft?" And then he's like, "Dead," or whatever.
Like, right. Well, yeah. Don't think about that. Like,
don't worry about that. I'm not saying he knows what's going on. I think he knows that there's more to the story than Beck killed all those men. But he's not. He's like, it doesn't matter anymore. Come on, let's get the fuck out of here. It's done. So,
okay,
I'll make the most out of it.
Okay. Well, so Flood takes him out of the house, and looks at the street and sees some more like small skirmishes, but he sees that there's a contingent of men led by a older man, under a standard of a white horse on green, which is Ricci's sign. So he pretty much assumed that old man is Ricci himself, and Ricci is basically encouraging his men to push them back over the bridge, drive them back across the border, right?
Drive them back over the border.
Drive the bastards. And so Flood calls for Ricci, and Ricci, they know each other. And, he says to Flood that, oh, you did some decent work here. Flood explains, like, I pretty much lost all of my boys except this one here left. So they go,
and he says, George, that he says I broke my bloody axe. George?
Yeah, all right. Fine.
Axes are expensive in the north. You can't just fucking find a bunch of shit everywhere. I mean,
that's the one piece of evidence in Flood's favor.
Well, the person that broke his bloody axe was Ricci.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Ricci said that.
Right. Okay. My bad.
So I guess your theory is actually Flood could still be the one to have.
I'm just saying, in the whole book, you don't actually see the guy fight. He just like kind of turns up after it's all done.
You leave him be. He's old.
Listen.
Doesn't have to be there.
Maybe he's the pre-Jonas Clover. Okay.
Maybe he is. Maybe
the proto Jonas.
The prototype. Okay. So they ask, Beck, what's his name? He says Beck. He's like, that's it? He's like, yeah. He's like, Ricci kind of goes, somebody like you need more name than that. We'll call you Redbeck. How do you like that, boys? And then they're all like, yeah, Redbeck, rah, rah.
And I love the fact that he says exactly what Beck thought he was going to say about him when he got to the weapon take. When he's like, look at this lad here. We need more like him.
That's right. You're right. I remember when he was thinking back to that, right? A couple chapters ago.
Yeah, it's exactly like word for word.
You're right. George, he even thinks, what was I thinking? That Call Ricci was just going to be down here himself saying, "These are the kind of lads that we need." That's exactly right, George. You never cut that.
That was good.
But obviously, it has a completely different fucking feel to it now. Because obviously, now Beck's just sat there like, "Oh God, I'm a fraud."
Also, I could be wrong. There is, I think, 2 other characters that we see get their name in the moment. I don't want to say the other one because it's a direct spoiler. Actually, both of them are direct spoilers. But as far as I know, this is the first and only one of 3.
Yeah, it
I'll
is.
tell you afterwards, Jeffrey. Like get it from somebody else, and this is like the quote unquote ceremony. This is what it is. You do something, somebody highlights you, and another name man goes, "Look at this person," and then the word spreads that this is a new name man.
Gotcha.
This is like the first time I said it, which is kind of hype though. Like all the guys like yeah. But I love that like in a normal fantasy story, you'd be like, yeah, he got his name. He's a man now. But it's so tempered by the utter like depression that Beck is in of his complete failure, and then it's even made worse by the fact that he takes his friend's glory in this entirety, and he's so dumbfounded and swept away still, which is the whole issue in the first place, that he doesn't have the heart to correct anybody, because he just doesn't know what to do.
He really doesn't. Yeah,
it's so tragic. But also so cool to see them get his name, It's
it is cool to see that. Like you said, this is the first time we see it happen in person. We've heard retellings, but this is the first time. And he thinks about like this is everything he wanted. He got the whole lot, and all he had to do was kill somebody on his own side, right? Hide in a cupboard and kill Reft. And then Flood is over here, smiling like a proud father. And he's like, "What do you think about that, boy?" And Beck is just like, "Oh no."
But obviously, they all just think he's just, first battle kind of
shock.
Aftermath.
Yes,
he's just in shock.
Yeah. So that's the end of that chapter, boys. How do you rate it?
I really like this one. I like both parts equally. I think I like Finree's like absolute chaos. I love Stranger Come Knocker being an absolute fucking creep. And I love Beck's. What's the word for it? I don't know. There isn't a word for the situation, isn't it? I just love his situation. I think it's brilliant. I think I'll give this one a 6.
I think I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna give this one an 8. I think it's so perfectly balanced. I like an 8 mostly for the literary standpoint of you have this scene with Finree and stuff. It's chaotic. You get Stranger Come Knocking coming in. But man, I tell you what, just this Beck stuff is like, it perfectly encapsulates like no one will ever know. The only reason that we even know that this happens with Beck is because of this, of a book in this POV. Like, it made me think when I first read it, all the crazy shit that went down, and no one was around to tell, and one person just came out who has a story, and what kind of crazy shit the people have gone through. That they just don't talk about it because they're so traumatized or whatever, and all those times where somebody thinks that somebody's a hero, but really, and not because it's really completely their fault, they just were completely unequipped to deal with the situation. Like they're actually worse than everyone thought they were. It just made me think about so many different things when I first read this, and I think it's a perfect balance between and dichotomy, both between the first half and the second half of the chapter of look at this cool, unique situation balanced by utter tragedy. So I like the chapter a lot.
It's well put, Harrison.
Yeah. I like that there's a continuation of the mirroring here, like I mentioned before in the previous episode with opening remarks, whereas both Finree and Beck, remember, they had certain expectations, and now battles upon them, and it's not the same, but there's almost like a parallel there. And now you have another one here, right, where the end of the battle for them, their battle, is near. They both stab somebody. They both kind of didn't even realize who they stabbed at first, right? And they're both in situations that they did not foresee themselves in. Actually, no, incorrect. Beck foresaw him. He wanted to be in this situation. How he got there is not the way he wanted to go. Obviously.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing for Finree.
Same thing for Finn. Well, now
Fenrir's
Finri.
just the same way.
Yeah, but now Finri, she did not foresee being a hostage. Now she's a hostage. So
She foresaw herself being in charge and being in command, and
she saw herself being present for like Mead's death and what have you. Well, she got all that in the King of Moon, and
everybody got everything they wanted in this chapter. It's not in the way you expected.
If only Elise Brent would just stop screaming so much. Oh my God, she just won't shut up. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 9 fingers because the thing is that at least for me, this isn't just a reading a chapter all on its own. It's in tandem with opening remarks and
sure.
What. So
okay, yeah.
So let's move on to our next segment, which is our community interaction segment. This is just us, we're just calling people to join.
Yes, but George pointed something out just a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody made a cool little Logan theme on Reddit. It's like a little musical 2.5-minute video. And honestly, I'm not very good at like doing the feel. Yeah, I'm not very good at feeling out like hearing a song and be like, that fits that character, because it's music to a character. But I think it is perfect. Down to the very last detail.
It's like, it starts and ends with that sort of like wistful. I'll name the person as well. Sorry, 1 second. So we have Geroni. That's a good name. Geronimus Reddit, which I think is like Hieronymus Bosch, but I don't know. This is an aspiring composer, and everybody go and check it out as well on the First Law Reddit if you haven't already. We're a little bit late to the game because this was uploaded about 5 days ago. But yeah, I like to see stuff like this. I like to see people coming out and making more content. It can't just be us, guys. Come on. Okay. Not including all the wonderful artists that we see.
Yeah, exactly. We usually try to highlight anytime somebody does something really cool. Obviously, we're gonna miss some stuff, especially since it's harder for us to be on Reddit. But it's
yeah,
I totally agree. It's like kind of a whimsical theme at first, and then there are these moments where it kind of crescendos up, and then it hits a minor note instead of a higher note, and that is like perfect. But it's just this one. It's like enough to just throw it off, so you feel a little bit uneasy, but it still feels like a medieval tune where you're and it feels like a Journey song, just with a little bit of an edge. And I think it fits the character excellently. So well done.
I could easily see the piece of music being how they sing about Logan as not a good person,
Okay. And so when you say Journey song, Harrison, you mean Logan's Journey, not the band Journey.
It's just Don't Stop Believing. Yeah, we're just talking about Don't Stop Believing.
We think that fits Logan's character really well.
A singer in a smoky room.
Smell of blood and sheep.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I haven't seen this yet. I'm gonna go check this out. But that obviously everybody else, you should go check it out as well. Go ahead and support Euronymous Rex. What was it?
Geronimus Reddit.
Geronimus Reddit.
Please, just on the First Law subreddit there.
Make your way down there, folks. Make your way down there. Well, besides that, don't forget to join the Memeing Every Chapter thingy. Other than that, that's our community interaction segment. So we'll move on to our next chapter read through, which is Straight Edge. Now we, in the perspective of somebody we haven't seen in a chapter or two.
Raw.
Sorry.
It's fucking Craw.
Currendon Craw. He is getting stitched up by Wirren of Bleh, who's stitching him up on the cheek. I guess due to like the shrapnel, right, of the cannon fire that they all just like went through and saw Splitfoot's head get split open. So Craw is not, getting your face stitched up is a painful process, right? So he's giving Wirren some grief, and then Dow walks up. Dow goes,
just before that, I just want to say I love
Yeah.
that this quote from Wirren when he says, "A man's better served embracing his pain than trying to escape it. Things are
Mhm.
smaller when you face them." That's sort of like that's what Logan says, isn't it? But just in a more verbose kind of way. It's easier to,
Better to
it's
do
better
it than to
to live with the fear of
fear
it.
of it. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, it is in a more verbose way. It is something you could read in a different kind of book and still kind of be struck by it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. I respect that. Yeah, I like that. You wanna bring up anything else about Weirin before I go right into the Dow stuff?
I just like the fact that he knows how to sew as well. Like he just seems like he doesn't give a shit about anything, but he does. He looks after his mates, which is nice.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it's
nice to
real.
see from the Northmen.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice. It's nice. Good for Weirin. Good for Weirin. Anyway, fuck Weirin. So sorry. But yeah, Dow walks up and he basically he wants to have a private word with Crawl. It's interesting. Okay, okay. So, Weirin leaves and then then it's Dow and Crawl kind of talk about like, oh, your face, like what was that they faced on the battlefield? It's like, I don't know, some kind of some new sorcery from the Southerners, whatever you're gonna do. And Crawl kind of goes like, it's an evil kind of sorcery that can just reach out and pluck men away like that out of nowhere, right? And Dow has a very kind of practical take on it, right? Where death is waiting for everyone. There's always gonna be someone stronger, quicker, luckier, and the more fighting that you do, the quicker he's gonna find you. Uh, okay, Dow. All right.
Getting philosophical on us.
Yeah, yeah. So,
He's
Go
I
ahead.
feel like that would totally be like, I do consider myself somewhat of a philosophant.
I'm a philosophical type, innit?
yeah.
Yeah, there it is. See, there it is.
Yeah, I mean, and Crawl kind of goes like, well, I just mean like if you're fighting in the circle or on the battlefield, like you're fighting, then in a charge or something, at least you have a hand in it. I mean, it's not like, someone's head got splattered while you're halfway through saying nothing much, and then Dow goes, oh, like split foot, yep, and then Dow just straight up says, well, I want you to take his place, and Crawl goes, huh, what? I hear that. What'd you say, Chief? And then Dow goes, I want you to be my second, lead my Carls, watch my back. And Crawl goes, what the fuck? We're like, why me? And Dow says, you got the experience and the respect. And then he looked at him for a moment, his jaw clenched tight. Then he waved a hand like he was swatting a fly. You remind me of Three Trees. And it was just like, wow. Oh,
And I like to, it's a nice sentiment, but do you not think that Dow's just being a little bit manipulative here?
I don't think he's being manipulative. I think that's just like an easy thing for him to kind of like excuse it away, because then a little bit later, right? Crawl's saying thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, if I ever get to be a tenth of him, blah 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 blah. And Dow's like, yeah, I don't give. Yeah, just tell me you're gonna do it. I need somebody I can count on, and you do things the old way. You're straight edge, and there's not a lot left. And then Crawl can see that there's like a weird twist to his mouth, and if Crawl hadn't known better, he'd have called it fear, and suddenly he realized it. Dow had no one else that he could turn his back to. So that's it. Dow really like, and Crawl sees it. It's not like,
Well,
it's not
but
like.
then
Crawl's being
afterwards, though, right?
What, you talking about like Wonderful? She's just adding
Well,
layers.
not before Wonderful. Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, Wonderful says here, like you.
What are you talking
how do you know
about?
he wasn't just? I'm talking about that. Yeah, I'm talking about that. Whenever he said maybe he just had put on a new mask, and I hadn't realized it.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I mean. Like it's so uncertain.
What are you talking about? New
Let me
mask.
find it.
So it's the bit where he says, yeah, Crawl watched Dow walk back up the hillside towards the stones, wondering whether he'd really let his hard mask slip or if he'd just slipped a soft one on.
Oh, that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's Crawl wondering, right? There's nothing that's like actually like we can actually really infer.
Yeah, but we know that Crawl is a fairly discerning person. Like he kind of knows people in that way.
He knows people, and so like he's wondering, right? But we've seen from the personal one-on-one interactions between Dao and Crawl, Dao is pretty kind of actually like chill with him. He's relaxed. He's honest. If he acts the hard ass,
Yeah.
it's because he knows he has to act the hard ass.
I think it's both. I think that
Mhm.
and we're kind of jumping around. And basically, he says yes,
Mhm.
and Dao's like sweet, cool, and then Carl's like, oh, cool, and then he goes to Wonderful, and Wonderful's like, really? Like, you realize that he's just using you, right? Like, everyone knows you're straight edge. Everyone trusts you. Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could help Black Dow, but really you're going to be bringing a lot more people to his side than he would be able to get otherwise. And you have Weirin, and Weirin's one of the best fighters, if not the best fighter out there right now. And he'll follow you wherever you go. So now Black Dow is in a much more safe position than he was without having a second. So I think that it's a little bit of both. I think he was being honest with him to get him on board, and he did want him personally.
Yeah,
but
there are other
there is
reasons
no
too.
doubt that he did it for other reasons as well, to
Right.
try to get everybody else kind of in line and make sure that he's not missing something. So Blacktail's complicated like that. He's both,
No, for sure.
Which is why we love him. It's why he's the best non-POV character in
the best.
other than bias.
The
Other than bias
fucking
already.
best.
Other than bias.
The fucking best, and I don't want to hear any
Other
other.
than bias.
Bias is whatever, but we know who the fuck I'm referring to.
The Lord Chamberlain has spoken.
I have decreed it such. But yeah, so basically, when Dao is like happy that Craw accepts just for the battle, though, just for the battle, made that clear. Wonderful walks up and he's like, "Hey, what was that about?" And it's like, "Oh, well." First, Craw asks about the dozen, like how they doing. And everyone's okay. Just Jolly On has a splinter in his asshole or something like that. But other than that, he's fine. And then Craw kind of feels wonderful in, and then that's where you guys just said gives all those reasons in addition to what Dao told Craw. And basically, she asked him, like, what about us? What about the dozen? He goes, I guess you'll be coming with me if you have it, unless you want to, like, retire or something. She's like, fuck that. So that's it. They're going to just go with Craw. And Craw's kind of like, wait, you're not going to give me a tongue lashing? And it's like, for what? He's like, oh, that he doesn't take his own advice. He should keep his head down and blah, 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 but, whatever. But Wonderful says, yeah, that's what you would say, but I'm not you. That's not what I'm going to tell you, right? And he's like, all right, I guess so. And then he asks her, like, do you think this is the right thing to do? And she's like, the right thing? Again, that's you. And at this point, Crawl's just like, fuck me, right? He's just, whatever, and he looks around and he sees Shivers standing not too far away, not saying anything, just staring, looking, in fact, like a man who felt himself stepped in front of. And now Crawl's like, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And he thinks back, go ahead.
I would just like to point out as well, when he says his wince becomes a full grimace, this is the first time that Stephen Pacey says the word grimace correctly.
How does he say it? Okay, grimace?
He says grimace, he doesn't say grimace, like he does in the first trilogy.
Grimace. Grimace.
I see no problem with that.
There's no problem with it, but it's refreshing that he says it in a non-posh way.
Gotcha. And so he does think back to what Bethod once told, would tell him before. Is like, a man's worst enemies are his own ambitions. And then Crawl just mutters to himself, and like, actually no, Bethod would tell him also, like, mine have got me all the shit I'm in today. So then Crawl now mutters to himself, welcome to the shit. Because now he's just thinking about it, right? And if he might have pissed off Shivers by accident by taking what maybe Shivers might think would be his rightful place, or maybe something that Shivers might feel entitled to. Now Crawl's got to worry about that too, But that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
I really like this one as well. I think I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a 6 again. I really like these interactions. I really like, we didn't talk about it, but I love the fact that they kind of come to terms with what just happened with the cannons. They were just like, well, what was that? I was like, well, it doesn't matter, but it's fucking scary. I think that's a really...
of artillery.
Yeah, exactly. And I love Warren's introspection. Warren is a great character, despite what you say, Jeffrey. Don't look at me like that. But yeah, I love these interactions. I love the a little bit more of a melancholy kind of mood after the battle with the Northmen, which is rare because it's usually just all bravado and macho and yeah, we're gonna fight and yeah, but this is a little bit more. Yeah, I like it.
Mm.
How about you guys?
You know me. I see Dow. I basically cream my pants. I'm giving this a 6 and a knuckle. We just get a temporary reprieve in the battle because the day's not done yet or anything, right? And we see, at least from Cross' perspective, what it could be, a combination of things. The Dow being reminded of three trees, which pulls at our heartstrings there, and then like, oh, maybe Dow is actually scared. It's like, no, not our Dowie Wowie, And then we see Wonderful now being the leader of the dozen, but obviously going to be attached to the hip with Crawl, and then we see a sprinkling of like, what kind of seed is being planted here with Shivers? Interesting. So enjoy it. Give it a 6 and a knuckle. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Harrison?
I mean, I feel the same way mostly. I'll be honest, I just don't enjoy it as much. So I'll give it a 5 and a knuckle.
You're banished. Get out.
He's gone. Are you happy, Jeff? He's gone.
I'm putting up a Craigslist posting for a new Adeptus Historical, and all anybody that wants to apply, just email us at circletheworldpodcast@gmail.com or visit our Backpage thingy. I don't know. I heard of this. What was it? A Backspace or Backpage?
Backpage?
Yeah, isn't that a thing?
I've never heard of it.
Never heard of it? No.
You've already shown your age by saying Craigslist.
Oh, you know what? Fuck off.
Is that even a thing anymore? I'm sure that got shut down.
I think it's still. I think it is a thing anymore. Harrison, get back here.
I really can't hear you.
Well, I don't know where he went to check on his baby. Woo! I'm really about to put his posting up on Indeed. I swear to God.
We're gonna hire somebody.
Yeah, but it's an intern position, so unpaid.
Oh God, Adeptus Historical in training. So first of all, you've got to read these books. Okay.
Can I come back?
Yeah. I already offered your position on Craigslist. Did you?
Damn it! Good thing I applied.
Yeah, we're gonna get an unpaid intern in here. Okay, so you say you gave it a 5 out of 5? 5 and a knuckle, you said?
5 and a knuckle.
That's what you said. Okay, cool. Well, let's move on to our next segment, which is our best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
So, for the first time, or not for the first time actually, there's no meme this week. Oh. Obviously, everybody has been busy over the holiday period, Christmas and New Year, and whatever other, holiday you might.
Festivities you may attend.
Festivities, yeah, whatever festivities you might have been going on, that's fine. So I'm just going to pick a bloody line of one from the last week, and it relates to the last few chapters we've been doing, because it's one of my favourite memes ever. It's the fucking... I don't know what show it's from, but it's the woman pointing at the cat, and they just kind of add all those extra things in. It's like, fine Jallenhorn, fired my father, but I should have orders. Do we have walls? Do we have archers? What should we do? And it just perfectly represents that chaos of that moment of, oh God, we are fucked. And we do, again, Buddy Liner, we appreciate your efforts, because you've been holding this season up of...
You're holding this community.
You're holding this community together. You are the glue.
He is the glue. I love that.
He is the glue. So yeah, make sure you go and check those out. Give him an upvote and a share and whatever.
Mm-hmm. That's right. All right. Well, thank you for that. So now we'll move on to our third and final chapter read through, and this one is called Escape. So we pick up back with our girl Finri. And Finri thinks that they're in some kind of shack. Her and Elise. She remembers being carried, marched, across the field, and that kind of stuff. But now she has I believe, a blindfold on, and she's obviously cuffed behind her back, as well as her ankles are bound.
I just want to say as well, this is a word that I never knew existed. What the fuck is fust? It smells like fust. Do you see that?
Oh shit! The place smelled of fust and animals. What is that?
What is that? It's a word that I've only ever seen Joe Abercrombie use.
George, you need to know because
You're British.
you know all the real life stuff. You're English. God damn it!
It's a strong, musty smell.
Well, that's just.
Or to
That
become.
can mean anything. That can mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, fust and must. I guess.
Why does he just say a strong musty smell?
It could also. It's like to become moldy through disuse. The word fust comes from the Italian word fusto, which means trunk of a tree. Ah, fusto.
Fusto.
It's a Syrian word. Hey. You know what's also that? You know what also is? It's the pani. It's supposed to.
It's a pani. Italians.
Oh. If Ghost was there, he'd be like, "Oh God, this smells exactly like Sapani."
And he immediately gets an erection.
I know this smell. Yeah.
Because he's back at the House of Cardati's or whatever.
Why does it smell like this? It's the pani.
Why is my dick hard? What? Of course.
City of Fust.
The
City of
pani.
Animals. Fucking hell. Oh dear.
Oh man. So well, there we go. Trees and animals, or must and animals. All right. Interesting, Joe. Interesting. It's probably some Welsh thing. I don't know. But
Why Welsh?
I don't know.
Because no one can defend them.
Then
Not a word, George.
George grew up with them.
You don't make me start talking
Don't
Welsh.
remind
It's
him.
bad that.
Okay, sorry. So Finri is thinking about, like, she hopes that Hardwick had made it to safety, but you never know. They might have took him down in the fields. She keeps thinking about, like, all the people she saw dead or dying, and she's trying to, like, think, right? She's trying to think about, like, concentrate on what you can change, which is a piece of advice from her father. But the difficult thing is Elise has been crying ever since the door shut in the shack. So, and apparently Finri she wanted to quite badly slap her, but she was like, "Well, my hands are tied."
Well, there is nothing worse than, if you're in a hard situation and you're trying to concentrate and somebody's just like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" You shut the fuck up.
And Finri's like, "Quiet, please. I just need to think. Please, please." Elise accommodates by whimpering instead of sobbing. So she asks.
She says that was worse, if anything.
Right. Yeah.
Debatably, it is.
Can you imagine now? It's just like a subtle, like, you're like, oh my God. And Elise is like asking her, like, will they kill us? Will they murder us? And Finri has to tell, like, no. I mean, if they would have done it already. Then the question was, well, then what are they gonna do with us? Then it's just like, let's boys. Just
I do like how Joe handles this, though. He's very mature about it. Many writers would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna make it all crass," and Joe just says, the question just sat there because, like, you already know.
Yeah. And
I appreciate that Joe is respectful of that without getting rid of the realism of that just being the fact. So it's well done, I think, in that way.
No, for sure. Especially that description, like, it sat between them like a bottomless abyss, right? That's very good, and he doesn't need to get graphic. He doesn't need to, like, rub it in your face, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but Finri's like, fuck this. We need to try to escape, right? So she's just
Good on you.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
That's it. So she's warming her way across the floor, and trying to get her hands free. So she's trying to she finds, like, a bracket somehow, like she feels it, like, behind her back and everything. And so essentially she just starts kind of like sawing, right, with her hands behind her back to kind of like break those bonds. and she cuts herself like once or twice, but it's not a big deal. She's able to, she eventually gets it done, right? She takes her blindfold off, and it's dark as shit in this room. She can't really see shit. So and Elise was kneeling like just like near her as well. So Finnery had to kind of like hop over to her because her ankles were bound still. Don't forget that. And then she took off Elise's blindfold, and then also her hands as well, and unbound them. And she goes, "Look, we're gonna escape. We will escape. We must. We will." And then she's they're about to I guess maybe make a move or something or like move, but then they hear voices getting closer, right? And one voice says, "How does he know I have them?" And another one says, "He has his ways apparently." And then we hear that it's stranger come knocking, right? We hear him say, his ways can sink in the dark places of the world for all I care. The women are mine. And then the next person to speak we know it's Shivers because it says his voice is a grinding whisper, right? Because he only wants the one. And he goes, "Which one?" And Shivers says, "The brown-haired one." And then stranger come knocking goes, "No, I had in mind she would give me children." And Finnery is like, because he's talking about Finnery. Because
what a horrifying thing to overhear. Oh my god.
It's pretty awful.
For real. And then Shivers
The
go ahead.
Go on.
No, you go ahead.
No, mine is in a minute. I was getting ahead of myself.
Okay. And Shivers like even asks him like, "How many children do you need?" And he just goes, "I want civilized children after the Union." What?
I find that interesting that he thinks that it's genetics that causes you to be civilized and not your upbringing. Like that's a really strange idea.
Barbarian.
He is a barbarian, but he's like it's weird, isn't it? I find Stranger Come Knocking to be such an interesting character because of that.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
it's interesting he wants civilized children.
Yeah, and then like you look at what he asked Shivers, right? So Shivers goes like, "What? Civilized children like to eat with a fork and all that?" I've been to Styria. I've been to the Union. Civilization isn't all that it's made up to be. And then Stranger goes, "Is it true they have holes there in which a man can shit and the turds are carried away?"
Pipes beneath the ground.
Man, sewage and like stuff like aqueducts and water and stuff like that. That is civilization.
That is the pinnacle.
Civilization is when you don't have to look at your own shit.
Yeah, right. No, you're very true.
I do. I do like what Shivers says here. It's the most Shivers thing ever. Shivers is such a consistently such a consistent character in so many ways without losing an arc. And he's like, "So what? Shit's still all shit. It ends up somewhere." And Stranger Come Knocking is just like, "I want civilization. I want civilized children." And Shiver says, "Well, use the yellow-haired one then."
Right. He says use the yellow-haired one, and Stranger's like, "Ew, no. She's a coward. She isn't so pretty. She does nothing but cry. The brown-haired one killed one of my men."
Which is interesting. Yeah, which is interesting. He says that because he says he wants civilized children, but then is like.
I want the one that would kill one of my men.
yeah, exactly. It's interesting that he says that too, because it makes me wonder too that maybe he's not wanting civilized children, quote unquote, to be like. Maybe you're right. It's a genetic thing, but he's wanting them as like prizes to be like, look, my children are half civilized. They come from the Union. You know what I mean? Like it's a possession thing, not a. I want to see what a civilized child is like. It's all about possession.
That is interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
I mean, he does talk a lot about trophies and things like that, so it would make sense.
Right? Yeah, he still has the trophy mindset. In his mind, the greatest trophy is not some other warlord. He's already conquered the East. His greatest trophy would be to have something from the Union, a nation way more advanced and way better off. And he's like, look at me. I got this thing that no one else has.
Right, and maybe he wants to advance the east of the Krina. Like, actually, instead of, like, backwater kind of thing. I said back page.
Maybe he does, but I don't think he actually wants to advance the Krina. I think he just wants trophies. He's conquered everything he has, and now he wants to show off.
But he does specifically say, "I want civilization." Like,
he does say that.
Yeah,
as
that's
if
true.
he wants to.
He's
make
pretty
it,
clear.
yeah, he wants to make their lot better,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way he goes about it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just steal everything.
I know what I'll do.
So, and then he eventually says that Blacked Out takes a high hand with him in this, and Shiver's like, yeah, I mean he's the one with the chain, and then Stranger it goes, Stranger come knocking has no masters but the sky and the earth. Blacked Out does not command me, shit on his chain. And then Shivers is kind of like, listen, he's not commanding anything. He's asking nicely. You can tell me no, and then I'll tell him no, and then we can see. And then there's a
I fucking
pause.
love Shiver so much. She's like cuts the drama out. It's like at a workplace, and every somebody's like being over dramatic. You're like, no. It's yes or no.
Yeah, yeah. And then we'll just see. We'll just see. It's no big deal. No, there's no command. And then I
Yeah.
guess Stranger kind of goes, fuck it. He's not risking that or whatever. And then the door opens. Somebody walks in.
Which is a really bad missed opportunity. I'm sorry to interrupt again, Jeffrey. I'm so sorry, but it's such a missed opportunity for him to knock on the door and for them to say, "Who is it?" to say, "A stranger."
It's
the only time he's at a door, guys, other than at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think you're right. Oh, damn. Yeah, now I'm distracted by that.
I never thought about it like that. That's incredible.
It's something Joe would normally do too.
Not once does Stranger come knocking actually knock.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's wrong.
I don't even know what to say to this. This is fucking hilarious. So basically, all right, somebody walks in. She realizes it's Shivers. She doesn't know it's Shivers, but we do because one of his eyes was strangely bright, too bright. And then we realize, oh, his eye was made of metal and also in the middle of an enormous scar. She said that she had never seen a more monstrous-looking man. And at least since she could see him, she got so scared that she even couldn't scream. She was just like... and then he tells Stranger, like, oh, she got her hands free. And then Stranger's like, see, I told you she's got bones. Ooh, tell Blacked Out there will be a price. There will be a price to pay. And then Shivers goes like, I'll tell him. And then he kind of squats in front of Finri, and he cuts the bond between her ankles. And he says, there's a price for everything, isn't there? And then he black bags her, puts a canvas bag over her head, and basically just picks her up and walks out, and the door shuts while Elise is screaming, wait, what about me? What about clink clunk? And that's it. That's the end of the chapter.
And the way that she Alice goes to grab for her, and it just kind of slips through her fingers.
Yeah.
It's just such a horrifying moment. Oh,
yeah.
It's terrible.
I would say in terms of and we don't see Elise again. I would say in terms of
you don't know.
This is probably, I think, one of the worst fates of any characters. A lot of characters die and are tortured and things, but nobody has to live this life of being, well, frankly, a brood mother, a sex slave.
Yeah.
This is absolutely horrifying.
I appreciate that Joe, like I mentioned a minute ago, that Joe handles this in a mature way without being too crass. But he also still doesn't go away from the reality that he just leaves it as it is, and you're left to think of it yourself, which somehow makes it worse. So it's just it's definitely very tragic for Elise. I would say it's I totally agree, George. It's one of the most tragic things that happens to a character in Joe's grim dark verse, which is really sad. A lot of bad things happen. They're inferred all the time, but this is the first time I think, and I would say one of the worst times, period, that we see it on a personal level in the moment to see what happens. So it definitely is dark and very sad for Elise.
Yeah. I mean,
so for the horror of this chapter, I reckon I'll give it a 6 again. I'll go for 6s all through this one.
Oh, 3 6s.
What?
Praise
I like
Satan!
I like Iron Maiden. What can I say?
Hail Satan!
No, it's absolutely horrifying, and this horrible situation that they're in, where Finri is so desperate and just trying to escape, and the way that she lashes out at Elise, even though Elise is going through exactly the same thing as she is, it's very human, you know. And I just feel so bad for both of them, you know. So I reckon, yeah.
Yeah, it's not really a lot to add. This is a rough one. Like, it's a very well written chapter.
Yeah.
But he still manages to squeeze a little bit of comedy in there, which is interesting.
Well, a stranger come knocking.
Yeah.
There'll be hell to pay. Yeah, I'll give it a 6 as well. The tension that builds up, and then you hear Stranger and Shivers just casually talking about keeping them or not keeping them as, like you said, brood wives. Yowza, yowza. And then, yeah, I'm just gonna give it a 6. That's all I can give it. Go ahead.
I like that the chapter, like we've heard about these, Krina bastards, or bastards east of the Krina before, and I feel like this is like the most like that's not just like, ooh, they're savages, they don't wear clothes, you know, like no, they have a completely from Stranger Comes Knocking like idea of what he wants and desires being so outlandish to his own people, and him like not even able to comprehend his very own ideas. Straight down to just them being like, yes, women breed, you know. It's just like it makes you be like, oh, these are just actual savages. There's no question about that. And
Yeah, because the Northman doesn't do like like one of the regular Northmen. They don't. This is not what they do. They don't do that.
no,
I've never heard any.
no. These
instances.
guys
I
are
mean, it's
some
even
Krina
brought
bastards.
into question, isn't it, when they're talking about Black Dow in the first trilogy? It's like when Black Dow brings up Cathal and makes a joke about, oh, you know, her, whatever, and then everybody's like, "What the fuck, bro? You can't do that. You
Yeah.
can't say that."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
clearly in the North there is a respect for people, even
Yeah,
if it's
they even
martial
had talked
desires.
about, Shivers is torn up about killing a woman,
Yeah, that's right.
and because there's a law and order to things. It is harsh, but it is a law and order in the east of the Grinna. No, and they've been around just as long as the North has. So fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck those guys. So would you give it?
So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and rate it a 5.
Okay.
I think overall it's an average chapter for me, but I think it's as always very well written.
All right. Alrighty. Well, thank you for that, and we'll move on to our final segment, which is, as you know, everybody, it's gonna be our character spot, and this one, we got some tragic ends to go through here, boys. Who we spotlighting?
So are we doing all three?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have, for the first time ever, we have 3 character spots. Because there are 3 major
Wow.
deaths in this challenge.
Well, 2 major deaths and 1
Yes.
should have been a death or preferred death.
Yes, death would have been
Yeah.
preferable. Yes. So we have Lord Governor Mead.
We didn't really get too much of him. He's a pompous ass. Get it? You know, your family died because of Northman back in the day. Woo! Well, now look at ya. You didn't want to listen to a woman, you misogynist, and now you dead. Now you dead. See, Harrison, that's your future if you keep on with your misogynistic ways. See? You.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Just because I play, Total War and say send them all in, I don't need anybody in the reserves. Doesn't mean that that's my future. Okay. I like Governor Mead more. Like whenever he's like shows to be a little bit more formidable. Like he as always, Joe always does this thing where he gives you this perception of a character, and then whether it's right before they're about to die, either he reinforces the fact that they actually are what you didn't think they were, or they're actually a little bit more than what you thought they were. And we see that here with Governor Mead. He is he's more clever. He's got perfectly good reasons for what he does. He's just been blinded by his own rage and stuff. And
I mean that's
which
exactly
is-
it. It's hubris and rage.
Oh yeah.
mm-hmm.
Bad
a
mean,
competent
he's-
man wrapped up his own shit.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's told explicitly that there are, we haven't scouted the woods to the east, so there might be people there. So we'll maybe be a bit careful. And almost because Finrey tells him to be careful, he decides not to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is again pretty tragic for everyone else involved.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
Because you have to remember, it's not just about these characters; it's about like the way that their actions affect other people as well.
Yeah, because of
Which
Mead's
is
decision, a lot of people died.
Especially
Go ahead.
Captain Hardrick and his tight ass.
Well, we don't know if Hardrick died.
I know. I'm joking.
I think that the way Governor Mead is and how Joe is like, yeah, actually, yeah, he's an ass and everything, and he's silly, and he got all his men killed and fucked up his army. But he was competent. It's an interesting comparison to our second character spot, which is Reft. And Reft is, again, very tragic, but like in the inverse. He is, you think that he's maybe kind of like, in a story, you kind of perceive him as the one that Beck turns into, and instead their roles are reversed. Reft is actually kind of the hero. He does do everything right. He is brave. He goes down there. He kills the 4 Union men. Most I think you guys said like well, pretty much they made mostly by himself. Yeah, mostly by himself though. Ultimately, and he goes back up there and then gets murdered by the person who thought who basically wanted to be him. And Reft is just lost in the wind. His little deed, his bravery, the potential of what he could become is all washed out. Even though he did basically nothing wrong. So it's a serious tragedy that is, at the Governor Mead, it's like everyone's like, oh no, everyone got hurt and blah blah blah. But Reft, no one is ever going to know. And in fact, he's probably just not even going to be buried. Like poor kid. But Reft was a brave lad.
Rest in peace, Reft.
The North's best. We need more lads like him.
We need more lads like him. Full-blooded lads. Just also, check the corners, and be a little bit more careful around cupboards. That's all, Reft. Damn, man.
Announce yourself, yeah?
Yeah.
It's me.
Well, he didn't say anything. Fucking say anything. Jesus. Maybe he wanted to sneak up on Beck to give him an ass whooping, but other than that, you fucking left
I mean, to be fair, that is probably
downstairs.
what would have happened if Beck hadn't stabbed him. He probably would have gone, look at this guy who was hiding in the cupboard the whole time.
Yeah, pussy. Actually, I don't see Ref doing that, but I do see Ref berating him one-on-one. I don't see Ref doing that in public. I got a good vibe.
You never know, guys.
Got a good vibe.
Maybe Ref would have opened up the cabinet, seen how his friend was horrified and terrified, and he would have comforted him. You just never know.
You never know.
Ref was somebody who was actually like genuinely trying to be good. He was a little defensive, but he never took it too far, unlike Beck did. Yeah. We don't know what's going on in his head, but I'm just saying. His was like truly like kind of the inverse of Governor Mead. Like he only was trying to save people and just fucking got like that. That's shanked.
There we go, Joe. If you're listening, we want a Reft POV chapter.
Yeah, why not? Give us just a POV.
I want to know if he was an asshole.
No,
he probably wasn't. He bet he was like perfect.
Just give us the POV of him walking up the stairs. That's all I want. I just want it from his side of things. Like, what was he thinking as he's walking up these steps and looking for Beck? That's all I want. That's all I want to know. That's what I want to know.
And then finally, Jeffrey.
Oh boy, folks. Normally, our character spot is reserved for a character that dies. They did. But this one, as we just read through that chapter, not necessarily dead, but we wish they just would have killed her. Rest in peace, or to at least Dan Brent. Yeah, wow. You're gonna be Stranger Come Fucking's wife. I mean, Jesus Christ. Involuntary. Jesus Christ. I can't even.
And I mean, he Joe usually shies away from this kind of thing. The kind of like, and it does never specifically, explicitly states it, but I really do, again, think this is one of the worst fates for any character in the First Law. And it was all just because she was trying to be mates with Finrey. because she wanted to be there for it. You know, she just seems so sweet and innocent, and you know, when she mentions,
well, Finri was
yeah,
also trying to get cozy with her. Don't forget that.
that is true. She was trying to get cozy with her for clout as well.
Yeah.
Being Prince, who's one of the king's favorites.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, again, it's all Finri's fault.
Damn, Finri, you fucked up, girl. You just had to be in that inn. You couldn't just hang the fuck back. Okay.
Exactly, and you know, it is good for Joe for, you know, because he did get a lot of criticism for the first trilogy and his depiction of female characters, and this is sort of like a more realistic, and not in a good way, but a realistic way of what would happen to somebody in this situation, and it's very fucking sad.
Yeah, I mean, we got Farrah's point of view. I thought she was a good character, and then Artie. I mean, people loved Artie.
Jeffrey.
Joe
has said.
Joe has
said I didn't write
Joe
female
said,
characters as good as I probably should have, and I probably should have had more POVs. But
maybe I'm just misremembering. So I don't know. I can't really remember.
Well,
we aren't necessarily talking about our own opinions. Obviously, we love Artie and we love.
You're
Finley.
talking about okay.
Yeah,
but
the general public. Basically, there's just those two women inside of the original trilogy, and everybody else who had any noteworthy character other than maybe Cathville are all men.
Oh, right,
which
right.
is okay.
Or Therese.
Right. And Practical Vitari, we saw for a little bit. We did see Carla
but it wasn't enough, you know.
Right, Carla's
there. He didn't write them bad. He could have wrote them better, and he does a lot better in the future with them.
Yeah, okay.
Like in this book, right?
But I love how he doesn't shy away from showing how bad it is for people.
Oh, right.
Like
sure.
he doesn't like hold his punches, which is great. And again,
but it's not gratuitous too either.
Exactly.
At least not with Elise's fate, and pretty grateful for that.
I like to imagine a scenario where Elise becomes like this barbarian war goddess.
War queen, yeah.
She turns it around, damn it.
She's like the Boudica of the East of the Krynna bastards.
Exactly, yeah. Boudica is a good.
I like to think that she Stranger Come Knocking over time, Stranger Come Knocking became some old fat fuck, right? I like to think Elise did that.
She did it on purpose so that he would
made him exactly what he never wished to be ultimately.
This is what civilization's all about. Cake.
Yeah. Cake. You want a 5-star knife? You should fucking go for it, you pussy. Oh, you died because I fed you too many fucking crumpets?
Well, excuse me. You said you wanted to know what a crumpet was, so... Alrighty, well, that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means so much.
Join us next week as we cover The Bridge, Strange Bedfellows, and Hearts and Minds.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media, and if you'd like to, shoot us an email at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
Why is everything broken?